is stronger than my father with Marcus Minis.
Welcome to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. I am your fearless host, Marcus Minis. This podcast is designed to talk about the positive and negative centered around fatherhood. Fatherhood is always a topic that sometimes can be a happy time and also sometimes a little bit of a tough time. So this podcast is telling people stories, trying to find solutions to help people who may possibly be struggling in the area. So I'm super excited for this episode, which is part 2 of our Mother's Day edition. So we're going to be honoring moms, learning about their stories, and I hope it's something that can inspire you. Special thanks to my podcast producer who does an excellent job producing each podcast, Mr. Jim McCarthy. And also people who help me in the background, Ms. A. Renee Jones and also Latoya Minis. Thank you for all their hard work because this is not easy to do. So let's get started. Part 2 of our Mother's Day edition. I have 2 special guests. Been knowing this beautiful mom a long time. We've been real good friends, kind of like a brother and sister friendship for a long time. So I'm thankful you can get on my podcast and the personality, Miss Angela Pitts. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And then you have a beautiful daughter I've been knowing pretty much all my life in Sequoia. So welcome, Sequoia.
Thank you.
All right. So as you know, my podcast is centered around fatherhood. And I like listening to people's stories. I like listening to, what happened growing up, what shaped you to who you are today. So for my audience, let's learn a little bit more about Angela. Who is Angela? Your relationship with your mother and father growing up, and then how did that kind of shape you to the mother you are today?
So I'm the youngest of 10 kids. My mother had 5 kids and my father had 5 kids. However, my father was never in my life. My father had 2 kids with my mom, which is me and my older sister. And there was always a difference. For example, he would call her but never talk to me. He would write her letters but never write me a letter. She could go see him. So I noticed that when I was little, but you're young, you don't know what it means, you don't know why. And as I got older, he just never was present for me in any type of way. And, the one thing that is very prevalent, I lived in Atlanta for a few years, and right before he died in 1988. This was September of 1988. He was there to do something with his nephew, and I asked him for some gas money. And he was like, I don't have it, and I'm thinking like, I've never asked you for anything in your life. Like, you don't have $5, for gas money. And, so I'm 17 at that time. I had just turned 17. And, for me, it was a difference because I had friends that had, 2 parents, and then I had friends that didn't. And the 2-parent homes, some of them were still a little dysfunctional, but I can remember one really good friend of mine, her mother and father had been together forever, and I used to, love to go hang out with them. We did Girl Scouts together, we did everything, a lot together because it was like her mom had help to be able to do all these things, whereas my mom was a single parent. And so, it was a lot she couldn't do for us. She just couldn't show up. I remember, people's parents used to come to school for certain events and things like that. And my mom just couldn't. And that never bothered me because I knew that she was working. And most of the time I wouldn't even ask her because I just felt like she couldn't get off from work. And, I didn't want to pressure her or make her feel bad. But one thing I said when I got older, when I had kids, I was going to make sure, school events, I'm there. And that's what I did. And I tell you, it wasn't until me and my first husband divorced that I just kind of start trying to figure out my life, why, because I had remained in toxic relationships for years, sometimes. And I was like, Lord, why, what is wrong? Why, I didn't have a self-esteem issue or anything like that, but there was something there. And when, God truly, revealed to me that, it was the abandonment issue and the fear of rejection. So I stayed in these relationships because I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want another man walking out of my life, because I felt like that's what my dad did. Not only did he just not show up, I just felt like he walked away and chose not to have any type of relationship with me. And, again, I was 40 years old, and I can just remember and this is, God just showing me, well, you have these emotions, And part of me even getting past the hurt of him has been me going to his graveside, talking to him, some of the therapeutic things, writing letters. If he was here right now, what would I say to him? I think we went to Huntsville a few weeks ago, and I still went to the cemetery because there's still a lot of hurt right there. And I remember, saying, I'm going to record this conversation now, because sometimes when you're in the moment, you don't always remember what you say, and having that conversation to go back on, to listen to the hurt in me that's still there, but I'm working toward, healing from that. But I'm 50 years old now, and I'm just now getting to a point where I am, receiving some healing from that. And when I said, when I had kids, I was like, I do not want to be a single mom. I always thought that, God designed it for a reason, because mothers are nurturers, fathers are disciplinarians. And, I just didn't want, I'm too much of a nurturer. And so, they'll take advantage of my kindness. So that was the story for me. And, how I just really fought really, really hard not to have my kids in that situation. But even in, as much as I fought, they still ended up in that situation.
Well, one thing, I've heard a lot of stories from women who didn't grow up without their fathers. What are some of the major effects? You feel like, what I would have made, not so much better decisions, but just a relationship. Why is that so important for a woman or a girl to have a relationship with a father? I don't really know, because I seen just my sister. That's all I know.
Right.
But, as I told you about my wife's situation, not having her father and the relationship. Why is it so important for a girl to have a solid relationship with her father?
Well, for number one, he's supposed to teach you how somebody else is supposed to love you.
Got it.
He is supposed to be the one that trains you on, this guy is playing games with your emotions. This is real stuff, because, sometimes we are, as females, are blinded to stuff just because, oh, he's so cute, he's so this. But, men have, y'all can see through some stuff, and that's just the truth. And when you don't have anybody there to tell you that, you end up with some characters, like some characters.
Wow.
And I'll share this, that I was 18 years old, and I was in an abusive relationship. 18 years old, just out of school. And I couldn't understand, I felt like I loved this guy, and I didn't want to lose him. So I accepted the abuse, and then, it just was like, really, this is a man just beating you for no reason. And it took me 5 times trying to leave him before I finally left. But things like that, if you have a father, that's something, I know it's wrong for a man to hit you, but when you have a father that has told you he should treat you with kindness, gentleness, love you, all of these things, then you have that validation in the back of your head, nah, I'm not about to do this, because I know this is not right. This is not how my father treated my mother. That's the example you want to see, and you don't get to see that, and you accept a lot of things.
And see, I always used to fuss about stuff like that. I'm like, why don't you leave? Why don't you do this? Because I didn't see everything in black and white, and I didn't understand the psychology of it, of why women have to go through that, because I wasn't taught that. And that's still something that always baffles my mind. Like, why would a man do that? Why would a man says, I'm going to put my hands on a female? I still, to this day at 45, don't understand that part of why people do that. And it takes a lot of courage to tell your story. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And so I want to get back to most of your story, but I want to talk to Sequoia real quick.
Okay.
Because Sequoia is quiet. I've been knowing Sequoia most of my life. What is your mindset? You're an adult, college graduate. What are some of the effects of your relationship? And you don't have to get so deep into it, but why do you think it was so important for you to have that relationship with your dad?
I would honestly totally agree with everything my mom said. I feel like the relationships that I entered, toxic. I feel like even my relationship with God, I would feel like it was a little question just because of the double-sidedness that I might have saw. And so it just kind of, it made me question a lot that I probably wouldn't have questioned if everything was the way it was supposed to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's easy to see things in church and you like, thought you're supposed to act this way. Why are you supposed to act a certain way? It could be easy.
Exactly.
You know, I've been in church all my life and you see things, you be like, I thought you supposed to act this way. And I always used to tell Toya, I'm like, look, everything stems from the Father. And she be like, you know, even in church, that stems from the Father. You know, I was blessed to have a mom to keep me in church, but my dad gave me the tools for fatherhood. So I do understand that part. So let me ask you, Angela, how did it affect you raising your kids? You have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful son.
Thank you.
How did it help you when you was going through different relationships? How did it help you raising your children?
It was really tough, you know, the divorce. So I also had my niece, Shalia, so it was 3 kids.
Yeah,
I was a single mom with 3 kids, and they went to 3 different schools. So in the morning, I dropped them off at 3 different schools, drove to Brentwood to go to work, picked them up, came home, and literally I would have to say, Sequoia, I just need a 30-minute nap. I mean, this was every day because it was a lot to get 3 kids up by yourself, you know. Going from we was out on Brick Church Pike, from there all the way to Brentwood and everything in between. That was a lot for me, but then for them, they had the missing for her especially, you know, she became another parent in the house because she was 14 at the time, and she was my right-hand person, my own everything, you know. I truly thank God for her because I don't know that I would have made it. And for me, I was really, really angry at God, you know, because I can remember, and I don't mean to be so spiritual, but I'm just telling you.
That's cool.
I can remember fasting and praying. I mean, I just, you know, everything I knew to do to try to salvage my marriage. And when you've done it for years, just fasting and praying, laying on your face before God, doing everything you know to do, tiptoeing around situations so that you don't make somebody angry, you know, things like that. And it just got to a point where I just like, you know, with him, I just like, I couldn't do it anymore. So looking at my children, it was a gap. It formed a gap. And though my kids were all my kids are mama's babies, definitely, but there were still things that, you know, that the Father did help me do. And then when you take that piece out and you're doing everything by yourself, you're being the mother and the father, the disciplinarian, the provider. And it's even more difficult when you don't have the financial assistance and when that person is not a part of their lives anymore, like literally disappeared. You don't talk to that person for years straight. No birthday cards, no Christmas cards.
Wow.
Not even a phone call. And for me, I overcompensated. I didn't know it then that that's what I was doing, but you know, your heart I know what I felt, so I could only imagine what they feel, that like all of a sudden this person is gone and they don't call, I don't know, nothing. And I can literally remember when she was graduating from high school, how angry I was. I was just angry at the whole family on that side, because they just act like my kids didn't exist. When we were together, they were there all the time. And I remember being at her track meet, and I sent one of the family members an email, a text like, how could you not be a part of their life? You were a part of their lives before this. And now, I was like, she's going to be graduating. She just has no support from that side of the family. And I'm just going to be real, everybody running around talking about they love God, but how can you say you love God when you have grandkids that you don't even show love to?
Yeah.
So, and that was a confusing situation even for them. You see somebody up here doing this, doing that, but you don't even love me. You can't pick up the phone to call me. Like, that's like a lot of fake stuff. That's what it seemed like. So,
and then sorry to piggyback off that. I just feel like we were also children in the situation, and so I felt like a lot of responsibility were kind of put on us as children, and I don't feel like that was fair for us, because we're immature.
Yeah.
We don't know right from wrong.
Yeah.
So the way that we're reacting is because we're hurt. And as I'm a teacher now, so I totally understand that kids are going to act out when they're hurt, but you have to reach out as the adult and be that person. And I don't feel like we ever got that. And I saw that being the oldest and also being put in that responsibility position. I saw it. I saw my mom's side. I saw my brothers and sisters' side. So it's like I saw every side, and it's like all people maybe had to do was push harder. Just be that person, be that support system no matter what. And that's what a family's supposed to do. My mom was there no matter what. She's still there no matter what. Like, whatever mistakes I've made, my brother, my sister, she's still there. And that's what a mother does. When you say you want to be a mother or a father, that's what you do. You stand there because we didn't ask to be here.
You're right.
You chose us. Because you chose us, you should be here. And so I think that's a big thing for me. Sorry.
No, you cool.
Being a teacher, I think I'm passionate about kids. So just knowing how I was treated.
Well, and I think, the question I really want to ask you is, you're growing now, and eventually you'll have your own family. You've seen what your mom went through. How can you grow and continue to grow and deal with the emotional side? How can you grow and deal with the emotional side as you continue to move forward? One day you probably will get married, have children. So how do you grow?
I think for me, I have begun to truly use God as a tool. My anger, because I don't feel a reason to speak to that person about my emotions, because I don't get a response. Okay. So, and because it's kind of like a rejection for me, I don't want to keep getting rejected. Okay. So I reach out to God, and then I have a big workout tool too. So I just like to get it out. I'm just a get it out person. So if I could get it out, then I'm good. And my mom will tell you that, like, if I don't get it out, it'll boil up. And she's like, what's going on? And then boom. So I have to constantly pray, constantly work out. That's my getting it out. And
Well, do you think, and you can just give me a yes or no answer, do you think a lot of that anger stuff stems from the father not being there?
Yes.
Just yes? Okay. Because that's what I want to know, is because a lot of people debate me on fatherhood. And I always say that girl needs her dad to give her the tools to tell her, just kind of like you seen in the previous interview, give her the tools of what to do, what to say. And then you have an example of how a man should treat a woman.
Yes.
That's your example. And so that's kind of where I see a lot of people go through, and I always wonder why. I have an undergrad in psychology, so I'm always wondering why. Why doesn't a person want to do that? But then I've learned through a couple of podcasts, I learned people's stories. Sometimes men don't get the tools that they need, and they don't know how to show a woman. So they're bringing their hurt, and then you got your hurt. So how's all this going to mix and work together?
Right.
How's all this going to work together?
Right.
It's not going to work. So I think that when I hear your story, I call you a superwoman because I really applaud single moms who has to do it all, because it's not fair to them, and they don't supposed to go like that.
Right.
It's not fair.
Right.
But when you can get there and try your best to give your daughter life, you gave her life. And I don't mean to make nobody cry, but you did. Because that's why I honor moms for Mother's Day, because they need that honoring. Because I don't know how it is to go. I don't know how it is to go when a mom has to fight for her children. But I honor those because just for my years of working with kids, doing the after school, just seeing some of the pain these moms go through. And I always want to try to help. You know, when a mom asks you, you know, do you know somebody can help me with this? I'm like, man, I want to help, but I have to be cautious because I'm married. My wife thinking I'm everywhere, but I just want to help people. I want to help people because I know it's tough. When God had a perfect design in place for the father to be there, so you don't have to go through hurt,
right?
You know, and you don't have to go through pain, and then it eases the mother. The mother can take it easy. So if Toya says, hey, something is broken, I'm ready to go fix it. She don't have to fix it.
Right.
You know, cars, this and that. She still fussed me about not fixing the brakes. I'm going to fix them brakes. But a woman shouldn't have to go down there and jack up a car.
Oh, my God.
And put brakes on.
That's a sensitive area for me because I'm telling you, I don't like dealing with mechanics and I don't like dealing with contractors. Everything else I can deal with.
Yeah.
But, you know, and you're right. Like, even teaching her to change the, you know, look at the oil. Like, if you over here, is the tire pressure, you know, small things. Like, my mom, thankfully, she taught us that when she got a car, when we got a car, change the oil, change the tire, and look at the tire pressure. You know, those were the things that she taught us, which she just learned along the way. Because now, my mom had her father, but her mom died when she was 7.
Okay.
And her father was not a good father. So, you know, she was just going on instinct to raise us. You know, she did the best she could. You know, and I mean, everybody knows I love my mom to death. Everybody knows. But, you know, I say, like, when I was growing up, I don't remember my mom ever saying, I love you. But I knew she loved me. I knew she did. But, you know, if you start talking about the love languages, she showed her love by taking care of us and by doing for us.
That's mine.
Now, when I had kids, she loves everybody now. She said, you know, she says it, you know, all the time now to them. But it's amazing that she didn't have that for herself. So she didn't really know how to be a parent. She loved kids, so she had 5 of them. So, but she, you know, I think that she was compensating for not having a mother and her father not being right and wanting to be loved. And I think sometimes that's what happens with mothers who don't have their fathers. They have kids just to have somebody to love them unconditionally.
Yeah. Well, how do you, as a parent, what gave you the strength to do all your situations? What gave you the strength to move forward and fight for your kids? What gave you the inner strength? I know we're going to say God, and I think that's number one, but what gave you the inner strength to fight for your kids when you didn't have that father piece there?
Well, you know, I'm kind of a pushy mother, but failure is just not an option for me. Okay. I had to, you know, push through because before we were totally not together, there were some times of separation. And even in those, you know, it was just the push. My kids gave me the motivation is what it was, you know, because no matter what, they still had to become productive citizens. Yeah. They still had to have a life. But again, it goes back to that overcompensating. Like, he wasn't there, so I had to do everything because I didn't want them to hurt more than they were already hurt. So my inner was my children, and, you know, I had a lot of encouragement from different people in the church, yourself, some of the elders, like you're doing a good job, because you don't know that you're doing a good job. You just know that you're doing the best you can. But to have people tell you that's like that reinforcement, that validation, that's that, boost, like if you're at the end of a race and you hear somebody say, hey, you can make it. I had those people in my life, to say you're going to make it, it's going to be okay. But I honestly believe that if I had not been in church and had not raised my kids in church, it wouldn't have been, it could have ended up a whole different situation.
Well, that's cool. I'm going to ask Sequoia the same question. Okay. I want you to, when you're looking at your mom, you see everything your mom go through, how do you move forward with your life and you prepare for eventually motherhood or wherever area you decide to go? How do you move forward? How do you move forward with all the pain and the hurt to be a superwoman like your mom?
I don't have a choice. I was literally pushed into it, to be honest. But I think another thing that I've learned just with graduating college and starting my career is knowing that it's okay to make mistakes. Growing up, I had to be perfect. If I had a tick on me, it was over with. So like, knowing that you're gonna make mistakes and you have to make mistakes to learn, I think that's where I'm at in my life, is allowing myself grace and allowing myself the room to know that I'm not perfect. I'm not gonna be perfect. I might do something good this day and the next day I might not, and it's okay. So I think that's where I'm at.
Well, like I said, this has been great, and we're wrapping this up, and y'all have been great. You've taught me a lot. You taught me a lot, maybe because I see moms who struggles but fight, and I'm really happy to see when I see women fight for their family and their kids, because you don't have the peace that you really need, because it's not right for you to have to go through this. It's not right. But life teaches you so many lessons.
Absolutely.
Because she's watching, and the goal is never try to repeat a cycle.
Yes. Exactly.
That's always the goal, is try to never repeat a cycle. I think you have a tough mom. I really believe you have a tough mom who loves you guys and really fight and pray for you guys. And my goal is hopefully to see you succeed and continue to move forward with your life. And don't allow the father piece not to hinder you. I don't know. I'm not a psychotherapist or anything, but I do want to. I do like seeing young people succeed and make it in life, and don't allow your circumstances to deter you. Yes. And so, my final question to you, Angela, is: if you look back 20 years, what would you tell yourself you could do now to help yourself move forward? What would you tell that? I ain't going to say the age, but we're going to say 20-year-old Angela. Let's say that. What would you tell, if you was looking in the mirror and you would see 20-year-old Angela right now, what would you tell her?
It's kind of like what Sequoia said is amazing, is the reality is give yourself grace. Don't think everything has to be done this way, this time. Because I was a stickler for that. And that was probably an extra stressor on me as well as the kids. But to allow myself to make mistakes, to allow my kids to make mistakes and healthily, help them to understand this is why you made a mistake. Not just, not necessarily condemning, but you got in trouble. You got to whoop. You know what I'm saying? But everything doesn't constitute that. That's what I would, think of. Like, everything doesn't constitute that you got to beat them or whoop them or discipline them. But
you got my mama right here. Don't say the B word.
Sometimes it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's taking time to understand what was you thinking? Why did you do that? Because people, they don't just do stuff for no reason. And it could have been, I was missing this. I felt like this. But my first thing was, you knew better than this. So, and I think for me, I thank God that my kids turned out okay. But I think that it could have been a little easier on them. I was a hard parent. I was. I'm still a helicopter mom, and my kids are grown. So it's just hard for me because I just want them to succeed. I just want to see them be so great. I just, it's so much that mothers want for their kids. And, you know, one thing is allowing them to make mistakes, you know. I have to always say, poor Sequoia, she had it the hard. She did. And I mean, I am so proud of the woman that she has become, because it could have turned out so many different other ways, you know. I can remember her in college saying that I'm gonna sit out a semester. That's not an option. Nothing was an option. And she's a grown woman. She could do what she wanted to do, but it wasn't an option, you know. But I thank her, you know, I'm thankful that she listened to me even now, you know. I mean, even now she be like, she don't want to, but she know I'm right. And again, she's still an adult, but I'm still that mom, like, you need to do it like this, you need to do it like that. So I try to kind of like, I would lay back. I mean, and I still wish I could. Just kind of fall back a little bit and not be so, you got to get this done. So it's an adjustment for me.
But I think you want her to make it.
Right.
I get it.
I wanted them to make it, so I just was like, I pushed. And sometimes that push can be too hard. You gotta, you know, the wisdom in knowing when to push and when to fall back is what I wish I had 20 years ago.
All right, so I'm gonna ask Sequoia a different question. It's probably gonna be a tearjerker as we wrap this up. Mother's Day is coming up.
Yes.
You know, having a relationship with your mom is so important. And I don't know, all I can look at is Masha, her relationship with my mom. And I don't know how deep it is. I just know for what I see. What would you tell your mom now? You know, as we get ready for Mother's Day, without a card, if it's a tearjerker. But I think, you know, life is so short. We never know when somebody gonna leave this earth. And I don't want to make it a depressing thing, but what would, if you look at your mom and everything she's went through, the negative and the positive, because she's done a lot of positive stuff. And I don't want this podcast to look like everything's negative, because I've been knowing your mom a long time. Remember, we had a class in Nashville Tech together. She come in, Brother Mark, and I'm like, who the heck is that? You know, crap, I'm trying to be incognito. I still remember that class. That was a psych class at Nashville Tech. She caught me off guard with that one. I was like, I can't go here and act up because she gonna see me.
I'm gonna tell.
I'm gonna snitch. Yeah, there we go. I still remember that. But what would you tell your mom, you know, without a car, without buying a car, what would you tell your mom after we close out this podcast?
I would just tell her to that she was awesome. I would tell her that any doubt that she might have had in her mind, that we didn't have it. We always saw her and still see her as just our angel. She's always there. I see her as the perfect mom, to be honest. And I know nobody's perfect, but I know that she's always there. She's always willing to lend a hand to anybody, not even just people she knows, just anybody. She's always just that caring person. She'll give you the shirt off her back if she had to. So just to let her know that we appreciate her and we love her, and that we're going to go hard for her like she goes hard for us all day. So, well,
thank you guys so much, because motherhood is not easy. And I know I will get attacked, but motherhood is not easy. It's a job. It's a job. And I see the things my wife does for my boys. When I'm lazy, when they coughing, I don't feel like getting up. She get up, check them temperatures and stuff, you know. But it's good when you have a helpmate. So I pray you find you a good husband, and hope you can find somebody that continue to help you. And Angela, we like brothers and sisters. Yes. You know, I'm not really close to a lot of people, especially female. But like, you always been a friend since the Nashville Tech days. You know my name. But I encourage you guys to continue to fight.
Yes.
Continue to heal.
Yes.
And I thank you guys for your time on my podcast as we honor mothers. You're a super mom.
Thank
nobody
you.
ever tell you. I seen you grind and I seen you fight for your children. And I'm just proud to be a friend and a guy to lean on whenever you need help.
Thank you
guys for your help. Thanks for coming on. Hey, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Strong in My Father podcast. You can find this episode and the other episodes on our website at stronginmyfather.org. Please subscribe to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where you can continue listening to more episodes and help us continue to fight and continue to spread the word on fatherhood. God bless you. See you in another episode.